On today's District Directions, there will be a focus on learning with Dr. Judy Barber, opening doors with Linda Kramer, and a district update with Connie Blaney, and much more.
Welcome back to another edition of District Directions. I'm Amanda Patterson.
And I'm Lawrence Bothwell. District Directions has a busy show planned today, like we said, and much more. And you can't spell busy without bus. And here's Kristen Gallarducci with the limited drivers, the bus report.
I recently visited the Transportation Department where I found Jim Nicewater in a jam. The past couple of years there has been a shortage of bus drivers, but this year has been the worst. There are not enough drivers for the rural routes and definitely not enough to spare for school activities needing transportation. Mr. Nicewater says the problem is related to the fact that Cleveland County has only a 2% unemployment rate. People have jobs and don't need more. Buses are crowded because of the increase in the number of students. The Transportation Department constantly shifts the routes so no bus is severely overcrowded, but it is coming close. For information on becoming a driver, contact the Personnel Department at 131 South Flood. The number there is 447-6599. You will receive an application and instructions. Training for a commercial driver's license is provided at the Transportation Department, and a certified administrator of the test is also on hand. That number again is 447-6599. For District Directions, I'm Kristen Gallarducci.
Thank you, Kristen. As you may remember, last week we showed you a focus on learning with Dr. Judy Barber that focused on gifted educational programs. Well, that was the first part of 2. So now we bring you Dr. Judy Barber with the second half of Focus on Learning.
Welcome to Focus on Learning. In the last show, we were talking about legislation and gifted education and the impact that the legislation has had on our program here in Norman. And as we were talking, we were also discussing the impact of what parents can do in schools and in general in the state. So I've asked the 3 guests to rejoin me, and we're going to do a part 2 of that show. We have Diane Lewis, who's the Director of Gifted Education and Testing, David Sisson, who's a member of the Gifted Parent Council and Committee, and Representative Laura Boyd, who serves in our legislature and has helped us with our gifted legislation. So thank you again for taking some more time. As we closed the last show, we were talking about the importance of parent involvement in schools, and I know that, Laurel, you want to talk about what it does when you get letters and phone calls, etc. at the legislature. So David, you were talking about your role in on the council and in the committee. Talk some more about that, and then let's hear a little bit more about why would you spend time doing that?
Well, the role on the committee and on the council is simply to give input as a parent, not only for your child's benefit, but the benefit of all of the children in the district, as to what you would like to see a gifted plan do. A parent may not be aware of this, but you may ask to join the site committee at your particular school, which is what I did. I served on the Jackson site committee, and from there, of course, that it opens the door to participate in the council, which is a larger group of parents, and we meet to discuss not only what ideas we have for our own individual sites, but how those may affect our district plan as well. And the committee then, which is selected from council members, at least in part, reviews the plans of the district and inputs and tries to hammer out specific ideas and issues that we believe will benefit our children. And it's a terrific opportunity for parents to impact their child's education directly. that is why I do that. I have a daughter and who has gifts, of course,
Right.
and I like to see that her education is well provided for in this district. I'm very happy with that, and believe that any parent who is interested should certainly see what opportunities are there.
In the last show, we talked some about the effect of the cap on the number of identified students and what it does in regard to monies, but I really don't want to look at that negative part, because in fact before, was it what year that we received no extra funds for gifted education? You remember the year, Diane, was that?
In the early 80s is when we began to be funded by grant from the State Department. But then through the middle 80s is when we really started child count information, where there was a broad-based, and we were mandated to go K through 12 in terms of a program.
Okay. Laura, would you talk about what kinds of activities are effective when we're trying to get you all to do what we want you to do?
You bet, Judy. First of all, most of us up at the legislature do like our jobs, and the way we're going to keep our jobs is to be responsive to the constituents. Sometimes I think parents think they cannot access a legislator, but I would also tell you that every good idea comes from a constituent. It really does not come in some sort of special envelope to us, you know, with our own energies, but we can further that. So what happens is if constituents will either call or write a note or make a personal appointment, and I would tell you that all three are equal. Even if I'm left a message on my voicemail, that is still a constituent. That is a real person, and that matters. We do keep tallies of the phone calls we have as well as the letters, and that's where we learn what our constituents want, the whole idea behind representative government. So it's very important that parents call us either as individuals or collectively as a council. That would be fine also. And then let us carry forth the needs of our community in a legislative process.
And truly that it's the diversity of thought that comes from across the state that results in pieces of legislative.
That's where the debate idea comes from. And in fact, when we were crafting this bill in '94, the suggestions went all the way from do away with special funding for gifted and talented and just roll it into the formula, to whether we would roll back in increments as we did in order to try to maximize those dollars. So those were pretty hefty debates, and they were hefty because of representing the different viewpoints across the state.
That's also what I like about the Gifted Council, is because then you're bringing together, we were talking last time of about 44 people who have their own ideas and feelings and of what our gifted program should be and what should happen in our schools, and that diversity of thought that comes together, I think, gives us a much stronger program as we begin to enact those ideas. Diane, since we've had parents involved in the gifted program, and that was before this legislative piece came about, we had a gifted task force that we worked with. What have you seen?
One of the things that I think that's really important is the more familiar people are with the program and the simple ways that we can do that. I think many of us who are insiders or staff think it's common knowledge, and we have discovered through parents it's not common knowledge. One of the really good things that parents give to us is they help us with creative ideas for helping that information be disseminated, shared with people. People are a lot more concerned about what they don't know than often with Norman Public Schools when they do know what's happening.
Right.
And they assume, many times it's just human nature to assume nothing's going on if I don't know about it. That's a normal response. So as we have found ways to communicate in new and different ways that are meaningful, that are efficient, that are effective, and I think parents are often able to say, it really helps me if you, I didn't know about that, could we? You know, it's confusing when you use that language. All those kinds of symbols that are simple things to change, that don't cost money, that certainly even save time and often save resources of expense. it's been a great benefit.
Right, to have that reflection
That's right.
from outside. David, what have you found most satisfying in working with the other parents?
Most satisfying, I would say, is the level of energy that committed parents are willing to put in that produce a direct result. I'm very impressed with the teaching that goes on in the public schools, in particular, the gifted resource coordinators that we have in this district to be commended. Very satisfying to see that these professionals are willing to take the time, and as Diane mentioned, to respond to some of the confusions. The Renzulli model itself is a complex idea, not readily understood by the average parent. I know I had my difficulties. But I think most satisfying is that you can produce a result in the schools. And I would also, to follow up what Ms. Boyd said, is to be involved in the political process as well and see what changes can be made there. But satisfying, yes, to work with other parents to produce a result that betters the community and gives our children an opportunity to express their gifts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know, one of the things that you mentioned were our GRCs, to use the lingo. Diane, what are GRCs?
Gifted resource coordinators are those teachers that are involved directly in helping facilitate, coordinate, organize the program. And the term coordinators are used rather than gifted resource teachers because they do identification. They are resources to classroom teachers. They may be doing direct instruction, but they're not the program by themselves. The program is a responsibility for all the school staff, and regular classroom teachers are just as important and probably the fundamental important link to meeting the needs of a gifted child. So resource coordinators help provide resources, help provide communication to parents, help provide legislative information to both staff and to parents, all those kinds of things.
And indeed, that is with the gifted resource coordinators was where the difference in monies as a result of the cap and also as a result of a redefinition by the State Department hit the Norman District the most, because we did have to cut back on that role in our schools. And Diane, we now have we cut
four full-time elementary positions, which basically meant we had 8 elementary schools who had full-time gifted resource coordinators. We now have none of the 15 with full-time. They all share with another school. So some of the schools had half-time before. Some have even less than half-time now.
All right. And so unlike when you cut a geometry teacher or you cut a social studies teacher, the program does go on, because this program is truly school-wide, and the classroom teachers are involved, and we continue to serve all of our students. We just don't have as much help doing it. And so there's less consistent attention to it. And I think that's the biggest problem with our cuts, and we certainly want to get back to that, and we'll continue to work that way. But I want to bring us back to the fact that before the Bagley bill, we did have gifted education, and we had an effective program. It's been helpful to us. It was a little more helpful before the cap and the state redefinition. But indeed, with the help of the gifted council and committee and the legislature, will continue to make an effective program even more effective. I want to thank you all for the time on both of these shows, but especially for the work that you do every day in regard to education across the state. And thank you for joining us on Focus on Learning.
Thank you, Dr. Barber.
Gifted programs rely heavily on literature. Strange as it may seem, some literature has been banned from the school setting. When I had team in the 9th grade, I was taught an unforgettable lesson on censorship and banned books, starring Norman's Teacher of the Year, Linda Kramer, who will now be opening doors to the world of banned books for us.
What do Huckleberry Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird, James and the Giant Peach, and Little House on the Prairie all have in common? Time's up. They've all been either banned or challenged in public school classrooms and libraries. Central Mid-High's 9th grade team students celebrated the American Library Association's National Banned Books Week this year by learning about books that have been challenged or banned in public school classrooms across the nation and how this affects their own First Amendment rights. Letters went home so that parents could help each student select a banned book to read. An extensive list of these titles was provided. After reading the book, students researched in reference materials exactly when, where, and why their book was challenged or banned. The goals of the First Amendment Free Speech Clause were studied, and students applied these goals to the objectives and themes of their chosen book. Mr. Jerry Burris, Central's media specialist, explained the book challenge policy of the Norman Public Schools and explained the procedure that has to be followed. He also discussed some of the material that has been challenged here in Norman. Students then studied Island Trees, a Supreme Court decision about the removal of books from school library shelves. Finally, students decided whether or not they agreed with past decisions to remove certain books, especially the book they had read. In some cases, students agreed that the book was inappropriate for classrooms. In other cases, students objected to its removal. But all students ended their project with a clearer understanding of free speech, censorship, selection of materials, and how people work within established procedures to effect a change. We are now enriching our banned book unit by reading Ray Bradbury's science fiction classic, Fahrenheit 451, which describes a society in which all books are banned and burned. After reading this novel, students are even more grateful to be living in a society where we can dare to read, think, speak, and write. I'm Linda Kramer, and I'll see you next week when we open another door.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer, for that unforgettable lesson on banned books. Ms. Kramer relies heavily on the media specialist, Jerry Burris. Teachers and librarians all over town work together to produce instructional pieces designed to teach the students of Norman on various subjects. These same teachers and librarians throughout the state compete in the Polly Clark Awards to win the honor of being the best media specialist in the state. Here's Amy Marsh on the details.
Our winner writes, while growing up, I was blessed with having parents who read all the time. One read because she appreciated good literature, and the other read to find information. Mom read stories and poetry to my sister and me when we were young, while Dad's favorite Christmas present was to find next year's almanac in his Christmas stocking. Ask him a question, he would find the answer. He was also a wonderful storyteller and would share his never-ending adventures of Ugalug and Mugalug on special occasions. My sister taught me how to glue cut-up envelopes in every book in our home and fill each one with date due slips. With a background like that, how could I choose any other profession? All the components were in place. The love of literature, the thirst for information, and practicing those reference interviews with my sister. I knew my destiny.
Christy Hefner, the library media specialist at Eisenhower Elementary, was awarded the 1996 Polly Clark Award. This prestigious award is given to only the top librarian in the state. Tell us a little about your library and why you think it was chosen for the Polly Clark Award.
One thing that's real important in all of Norman libraries is the flexible scheduling, and we have that in full implementation here where the kids can come in and out at any time and check in and check out, and then I plan with teachers and whatever they're doing with their curriculum. I'll sit down and plan with them and bring in books, literature, video, computer sources that will help them enhance that teaching. So.
How are you selected or nominated for the Polly Clark Award?
Well, I was nominated by a teacher in our school, Susan Gladhill, who's our reading and fourth grade teacher, nominated me last spring. And then you get a form from the State Department of Education. It's from the library part of the State Department. And you have to fill out the form, and it asks for, you have to write a mission statement and a personal statement about your library, and then you have to fill out different workshops you've presented and different professional things that you've done, and then get a couple letters of recommendation written. And it had to be turned in by July 1st. And then after that, there's a committee that looks at all the applications.
I'd like to talk just a minute about the strands of thread that have gotten me here today. And those strands, one of the most important ones has been my family. And Terry talked a little bit about that. And they've been wonderful, and they're one of the main reasons I am here today. I also married into a family of readers, and my 3-year-old's trying really hard. I also have another strand coming in from all those people, those Mildred Laughlin's and Kathy Latrobes, and wonderful teachers that I've had, wonderful administrators that I've had, Judy Barber, Pat Simons, that have allowed me to do the things that I can do, and it's been so fun. I also have another strand coming in from all the teachers I work with who give me the freedom to take their class and do things with their class, and sometimes that's scary. And the students that I work with have just made it wonderful. My aide at school is just my right arm all the time, my left arm, my feet sometimes. She's wonderful, and I just want to thank you. I'm truly honored. The last strand, and one of the most important strands, is all of you people out there that do what you do and come to workshops like this and we do these and we get motivated and more excited every year. And it's wonderful to be a part of this profession and to work with such wonderful people. Thank you very much.
For Christy Hefner, the winner of the 1996 Polly Clark Award, I'm Amy Marsh.
Thank you, Amy, and congratulations to Christy Hefner for winning the Polly Clark Award for the Best Media Specialist in the state of Oklahoma. On October 8th, as you may recall, there were numerous bond elections across the state. Districts from all over went to the polls to vote yea or nay to appropriate money for the new school projects. For Norman's bond election results, here's Connie Blaney with the district update.
Red Ribbon Week will be held October 20th through 25th in the Norman community. Students in all of our schools will be participating in various activities. Students can sign drug-free pledge cards that say they promise to remain drug-free. Businesses will give incentives and coupons if students show their pledge cards. Many schools will participate in tree planting ceremonies for the Tree of Hope and Decoration Day. Students will help decorate trees at Andrews Park on Tuesday, as well as business people. Each day conveys a different theme. Some of the city-wide activities include Trash Out Drugs, decorating our Norman sanitary trucks, Wear Your Red Ribbon T-shirt Day, Adopt a Smoker You Love Day, and Community Celebration Day. We thank the voters of the Norman community for supporting the district's October 8th bond election. The voters passed the election with a 77% margin on Proposition 1 with 2,291 yes votes and 666 no, and 77% margin on Proposition 2 with 2,280 yes votes and 678 no votes. The bond issue will provide for improvements and repairs at school sites, technology at all of our schools, renovation and remodeling at Norman High School, 5 school vans and a school bus, and renovation and construction at the future Norman High School North. The board approved the boundary lines last spring that designate which schools will feed into the middle schools and the high schools. Both high schools will be 9th through 12th grade, and there will be 4 middle schools next year. Plans are underway for this transition next fall. Staff assignments will be made this school year. Money is coming in on this year's Norman Public Schools United Way Drive. If you still want to make a donation to this year's campaign, we are still accepting applications and donations. Please turn your donation right away to the Public Relations Office in the Administrative Services Center. We're short of our drive goal, but we hope as donations continue to come in, we will reach our goal. The Cleveland County Health Department will begin immunizations of hepatitis B shots in the middle schools to all 6th graders beginning in early November. The shots are free, and the series of shots will be given to the students by public health nurses at the school sites. Parents will be receiving information and permission slips to sign. Parents are asked to send those forms back as soon as possible. The first vaccinations will be November 4th at Whittier, November 6th at Irving, and November 7th at Longfellow. The second series will be in December, and the third series of shots will be scheduled for March. All 6th graders will need to show proof of having completed the hepatitis B series upon enrollment in the 7th grade for 1997. If you have questions about the hepatitis B shots, please contact Joyce Lane, nurse at the Health Department, 321-4048. October 30th is the deadline for the Prudential Spirit of Community Awards, recognizing students who volunteer in the community. If you know of a student that's deserving of being recognized and would like to nominate them for this National Awards program, contact the principal at your school site. Applications are available at all the secondary schools and at the Public Relations Office. Students named winners will receive a trip to Washington, D.C., as well as many other honors. Grant proposals are due in the Administrative Services Center in Nancy O'Brien, Assistant Superintendent's Office, by next Tuesday, October 22nd. Any teacher working on a grant must meet this deadline for consideration of his or her grant. The Norman Public Schools Foundation's Allocations Committee decides on the grants and can award up to $1,000 on a grant. The money is used to fund innovative projects in schools that benefit the students. Anyone wishing to commemorate someone due to a birthday, celebration, or the death of a friend or a loved one can donate to the school foundation. Donations can be made in care of the foundation, 131 South Flood Avenue, Norman, 73069. For additional information, contact my office, 366-5961. For Norman Public Schools, I'm Connie Blaney.
Thank you, Ms. Blaney, and thank you, Norman, for your continued support of the Norman Public Schools.
Well, that's it for this edition of District Directions. For Lawrence Bothwell, I'm Amanda Patterson, wishing you good grades and good times.